Hi there everyone and welcome to Tech Cravers. Today I intend for us to address a question that is on the lips of many handheld gaming enthusiasts. Which handheld console is better between the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro and the Anbernic RG556? One thing we can establish right away is the cost of these devices. The Retroid Pocket 4 Pro is priced at $199 excluding shipping and taxes, while the Anbernic RG556 costs $185 excluding shipping and taxes, which means that these devices are within the same price range. However, upon proceeding to checkout, we discovered that our Retroid will incur an additional $16 in shipping cost, and the RG556 will incur another $15. So far so good, but while we don't receive any information about potential additional taxes and fees for the Retroid, we're informed directly by Anbernic that there will be an additional whopping $50 in taxes. So keep that in mind. Even though that these handhelds are marketed as sub $200 devices, it's highly likely that you will end up paying closer to $250 before you have them in your hand. At least depending on which country you live in. But now that we have the pricing sorted out, it's time to delve into what sets these handhelds apart and which one I can ultimately recommend. So without any further delay, let's jump into it. If you're a follower of my channel, you may already know that I have individual review videos for these handhelds out already. But before we delve into more concrete and physical differences between these devices, I just want to quickly remind you of what we find inside of them. The Retroid Pocket 4 Pro boasts a MediaTek Dimensity 1100 octa-core CPU. It also has a Mali G77 GPU clocked at 836 MHz. It has 8GB of LPDDR4 RAM and 128GB of internal storage, but it also has an SD card slot for external storage. The display is 4.7 inches and has 60Hz refresh rate. The resolution is 750 by 1334 and the battery is 5000 mAh, and it has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and Android 13 with official OTA support. The Anbernic RG556 on the other hand comes with the Unisoc T820 for CPU, which is a newer and faster CPU but has a slightly inferior Mali G57 GPU. It has the same 8GB of LPDDR4X RAM and the same amount of internal storage, that being 128GB, and it also comes equipped with an SD card slot to expand the storage. It has a bigger 5.48-inch AMOLED at 1080p, so that's definitely something that's gonna stick out in terms of hardware differences. And lastly, we get Wi-Fi and Bluetooth support here as well, and a bit bigger 5500 mAh battery to support that bigger screen. The RG556 also comes with Android 13. Now that we have that cleared up, let's take a look at what actually sets them apart. It's quite evident from this footage that Retroid and Anbernic has chosen to take different paths with their latest devices. Retroid sticks to its classic flat and blocky design that they've had on their recent devices, while Anbernic is trying something completely new with the more ergonomic design. So let's talk about the most obvious part first. The RG556 is gonna be much better to play with for longer periods of time. There's no way around that. The Retroid Pocket 4 will make your hands cramp just by holding it if you play for too long. In Retroid's defense, there are grips available for purchase, but they come at an additional cost of $15. The design will, however, let your handheld slip inside a pocket on your jacket much easier than the RG556. Actually, I think the RG556 is a bit too chunky to be called pocketable. But if we overlook ergonomics, a category in which the RG556 definitely excels, I personally prefer the appearance of the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro over the RG556 design. The design is simply sleeker and exudes a more premium handheld feel. The Retroid Pocket 4 Pro has better shoulder buttons in my opinion, simply because of two things. Both the triggers and the R1 and L1 have this texture to them, which adds some extra grip and tactile feel to the buttons. And they also go further around the corner of the handle, which makes it easier to click no matter how you prefer to hold the handle. The next major difference to consider is where you prefer to have your D-pad, above or below the left joystick. Generally, I always say that if the main purpose is to play games newer than Nintendo 64 and up, then you should choose a handheld with the D-pad below the left joystick. This is simply because the ergonomics makes it smoother to play. However, there's a truth with modification. This is because you can remap your buttons so that you can still control your old retro games with a joystick if you prefer, but also because some people simply prefer to have the D-pad at top regardless of what they are playing. It's simply a matter of personal taste. Regardless of what you prefer in the end, you should at least know that the handhelds have different layouts. If we set aside where the D-pad is placed on the device, as it's largely a matter of personal preference, I'll briefly summarize my thoughts on the controls. I prefer the design and feel of the D-pad on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro. In fact, this design of the D-pad is probably my favorite design out of all D-pads out there. I find the glossy design that Anbernic chose to go with on the RG556 a bit off-putting, to be honest. Now, the D-pad isn't bad on the RG556, it's actually quite big and nice in that way. I just prefer the D-pad on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro over basically any other design. The joysticks are good on both devices, but once again I prefer the concave design that Retroid has gone for. They also feel a bit stiffer, which I like as well. I actually don't really care much about the design on the top side, and they also resemble each other quite a bit and a lot of other handhelds we've seen in recent years as well. We have fan exhaust, power buttons and volume controls. A hardware difference that I wish to shed some light on is that the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro has a dedicated HDMI port for video output, whereas the Anbernic RG556 uses the same USB-C port for both video output and charging the device. Quick thinking viewers have already realized that this could create issues if you want to play with a device that has low battery. I've already mentioned that I prefer the design Retroid has chosen for its shoulder buttons, so I don't really intend to delve further into that. However, it's worth mentioning that many out there, both YouTubers and members of Retroid's Reddit community, have reported issues with faulty or even totally broken shoulder buttons. This is something that Retroid has addressed themselves and begun sending out replacement parts for. With that said, it essentially becomes a tie regarding which one is better. But now it's finally time for some direct performance comparisons between the devices. First up is the PlayStation 2 via the Aether SX2 emulator, and I let the video footage speak for itself, but generally speaking, what the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro can play upscaled to 2 or sometimes even 3 times native resolution, the RG556 can play at 1 or 1.5 times native. Both devices are set to their respective high performance modes and with the fans at full power. And basically the same story applies to Gamecube via the Dolphin MMJR2 emulator. However, Gamecube games run slightly better on the RG556 than PS2 game does. And when I play at 3 times native resolution on the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, I can play at about 1.5 to 2.5 times native resolution on the RG556. But remember, this is the out-of-box experience and I haven't made any adjustments to the device's settings. Just like with many other handhelds before these, there are settings such as under and overclocking that can make some games run smoother than others. Okay, so with that said, I think it's high time to discuss which of these handhelds you should acquire. If it hasn't been already clear in the video, I want to first and foremost point out the fact that both the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro and the Anbernic RG556 are two very good handhelds in the price range. If we overlook any potential taxes, since I'm unsure how it works in countries other than Sweden, it's possible to purchase both of these devices for less than $200. That's as much or even less than what some stores charge for Anbernic's 2-year-old RG552. And with some help and positive encouragement, that handheld plays your N64 library, with a bit of luck. It's simply crazy to think about how far development has come on the performance side in just 2 years. And with that said, which of these wins the battle of the bang for the buck? I'd like to say the RG556 since it's cheaper, but however, since the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro plays PlayStation 2 and GameCube so much better out of the box and doesn't require any tweaks or similar adjustments to run smoothly, it's impossible not to choose it as the winner. Even though it's a slightly more expensive handheld, its performance justifies the price in the end. If, however, you want to save as much money as possible but still be able to play your PS2 and GameCube games, and at the same time you're not averse to googling or watching YouTube tutorials to optimize your game settings for smooth performance, then the RG556 is the clear choice. Add to that the overall better ergonomics that your hands will definitely thank you for afterwards. And that's all for now. If you liked this video, please feel free to leave a thumbs up and write a comment down below if you plan to buy one of these handhelds or if you have one already. What do you like and dislike about them? Personally, I'll be using the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro more as it's simply more convenient to carry around, and my adult dad life often revolves around many shorter gaming sessions rather than a few longer ones, so ergonomics aren't quite as important as they used to be. But who knows, that may change in the future. Thank you very much for watching this video, see you in the next one, Tech Cravers out!